Director Wray, I want to express my agreement with the chairman about the importance of working together and the importance of having an all-of-government approach to fighting the opioid crisis, the fentanyl coming into our country and poisoning our citizens. 107,000 dead last year from this crisis. Working together is what we need to do, and putting aside professional jealousies and envies, we have to do that. Well, here in the House, just yesterday, we passed a bill utterly on party lines and just barely that would impose significant cuts in discretionary outlays for fiscal year 2024. That's what we're up to here on the Appropriations Committee, funding your agency. And I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to ask you all at once, a bunch of different questions to illustrate how a 22% cut, that's what this would mean, a 22% cut across the board for non-defense discretionary programs, how a 22% cut would impact the FBI's ability to fight violent crime, to fight the espionage and influence efforts of others such as the PRC, to help fight the opioid epidemic, to enhance the FBI's own cybersecurity, and to fight cyber threats facing our nation, and to help fight transnational crime. What would a 22% cut in your budget do to those things?
Well, so let me, I guess, take those in turn. So violent crime, we, as I said, arrested 20,000 violent criminals last year, dismantled, I think, 370 violent gangs since the beginning of last year. So a 22% reduction would mean hundreds more violent criminals out on the streets, dozens more violent gangs terrorizing communities. I should also say that our violent crime work is also very heavily focused on crimes against children. And we arrested something like 3,000 child predators and saved, I think, about 2,000 kids from abuse and exploitation last year. So a 22% reduction would be hundreds more predators on the loose and hundreds more kids left at their mercy. You mentioned espionage. My principal focus, my priority has been since early during my time as director, the Chinese government and the Chinese Communist Party, which I think represents the greatest threat to our country. And we've grown the number of investigations into the Chinese government and their actors by about 1,300%. And we have well over 2,000 active investigations into that threat as we speak. So a 22% reduction would be scores of threats from China left unaddressed, and I can assure you the Chinese government is not dialing back. So you mentioned cyber. We are investigating 100 different types of ransomware. You could look at just China alone. As I said, their hacking program is bigger than that of every other major nation combined, so 22% reduction would be cutting capacity against more and more attacks which hit critical infrastructure, schools, hospitals, 911 call centers, our innovation, our economic security, cybersecurity, I guess the FBI's own cybersecurity. We block something like 15 million unauthorized connections. In other words, people trying, external systems trying to get into our systems per week. And we know cyber adversaries want to hack government systems, especially ones that have sensitive information like we do. So a 22% reduction would almost certainly mean significantly more of those efforts that we get through. You mentioned opioids and fentanyl. We have, in any given seizure, I can think of just a few off the top of my head, in California, Phoenix, Albuquerque, just individual seizures where we've seized more fentanyl in one seizure than would be enough to kill entire states, including the entire state of Pennsylvania. So 22% reduction there would mean fewer seizures of fentanyl, more fentanyl on the streets, more overdose deaths, I assume. You mentioned organized crime. I think I mentioned to the chairman, we have 380 investigations into cartel leadership. And these are sophisticated, very well-funded, dangerous adversaries that need a team effort and lots of resources to take them down. 22% reduction would significantly weaken our ability to fight back against the cartels. So each one of these things, in my view, we need more money for, not less. And we need to make sure that we're not just doing right by the hardworking men and women of the FBI who are career law enforcement professionals who devoted their lives to serving the public. And a 22% reduction would have drastic impact on them, their spouses, their kids. But it would also have impact on our state and local law enforcement partners who I'm dealing with every week, who are most of them are down significantly in terms of their workforce and their head count, and they're depending on us more and more to fight violent crime and the scourge of drugs. So 22% cut to us means 22% less than we can do to help them in the slew of ways we do that. And then I guess ultimately, at the end of the road, you're talking about the impact on the American people, the public in the neighborhoods that we're protecting from Chinese spies, hackers, violent gangs, terrorists, predators, the cartels. I guess that's my answer to your question.
Thank you, Director Wray. I will yield back at this point, Mr. Chairman.